You're good to go.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Shimmer Fondant color mixing class. I'm Liz, I'm the owner of Eat Cake Be Merry, and I'm here today with Michaels and Satin Ice. We will be using all their fondant to show you how to mix these colors and create this beautiful cake today. And just to let you know, we have Melinda from Satin Ice on the chat with us. So if you have any questions, please ask during the live tutorial and she'll send them to me and I'll be able to answer them for you. Okay, so let's get started. This is the project that we're going to be making today. All right, so it's a little mermaid themed cake with sand and seashells and these beautiful scalloped patterns. And we're going to be creating all these custom colors just by mixing a few different kinds of pearl fondants. So we have, or shimmer fondants, we have the gold here, the pearl, as well as the silver. And these are very versatile. They have like a little glittery effect to them, which is beautiful. And I think that kind of enhances this whole mermaid theme. We're gonna be mixing these with Satin Classic fondant. So we have 3 different kinds that we'll be working with today. We have the turquoise, the pink, as well as the purple. So we'll be, combining them in different proportions and quantities to get the colors that we want. So let me just put this cake aside. All right, and then we can get started. So I will show you the difference between these pearl and the regular fondants, just so you can get a closer look. So let's go ahead and open. So these are really convenient sized packs. You'll find them at Michaels as well as the larger packs. So head on over there to get your supplies. All right, so let me bring you over to this camera. You can see. Oh, I guess it shut off. Okay, never mind. I will show you from here. Okay, so I don't know if you could see there's like a little sheen to it, a little shimmery, and in real life you could see it a little bit better, but probably just because of the lighting of the camera, but there is like a glisten to it. And I'll be opening one of each of these colors. All right, so here is the silver. You can see it's shiny. All right, and our last one here is gold. Now, they do come, let me show you the larger cups as well. They come in this size and one that's a little bit smaller than this, as well as these packs. Okay, so here's the gold. And then in comparison, we'll open up these classic packs and you'll see that this is just a little bit more matte. It doesn't have like that sparkliness to it. But once we mix it with the shimmer fondant, we will be able to make this color into one that is glittery as well. Okay, so let's just open all of these. Now, I don't know if many of you have worked with fondant or not, but I'll be going through a couple tips that will make it easy to work with. The first thing that you might think, oh, when I work with fondant, it's a little sticky or my hands are warm. So the best way to counteract that and make that manageable is I use cornstarch. So I have a little container of cornstarch right here, and you could, put it on your surface so that the cornstarch will kind of act as a drying barrier. And you can also use shortening if you want. A lot of people do that because they just don't want to make the fondant more dry than it is. So if you want to use shortening, you can do that. If you want to use cornstarch, it's just your preference. But both will work so that it won't stick to your surface. I also have a fondant mat here. It's like a silicone mat. That will really help as well, but if you don't have that, you can just definitely use any surface that you have. Okay, let's All right, so I'm gonna, because my other camera's not working, I'm gonna show you a little bit up close like this. Okay, so I have all the different colors. You can see how vibrant and beautiful it is. One of the real benefits of Satin Ice is that they have a variety of these colors. A lot of other brands might just sell white or chocolate, but Satin Ice has like the entire rainbow. And through these different techniques of mixing colors, you can make any of the in-between colors that they don't produce. So for instance, if you wanted like a nice violet, you can add these two together. But today we'll be focusing on mixing the shimmer with the colored fondant. So I have this board here to show you guys a little bit of what I did to achieve some of the colors for the mermaid cake. All right, so here are a couple of variations that I made. So this one I mixed a little bit of the pearl fondant with a little bit of pink fondant and got this shade. Now going on, I mixed silver with the same amount of pink to get this shade and green with pink to get this orangish shade. And that's kind of the same concept that I went with on this first row. So we have white with turquoise to create this nice icy blue, silver with turquoise, and gold with turquoise. And it makes kind of like this greenish seafoam color. And then here I have the pearl with the purple or violet fondant, silver with violet. It kind of creates a similar color. There's not that much contrast, but then once you mix the gold with the violet, you'll see that you get this like rich, dark gold, almost copperish color. And I'll go through some of these live, but I'll just show you the other side. And sorry that the other camera's not working. We're actually bearing for 2 hurricanes to hit Houston, Texas. So our internet's a little iffy, and I think that's why the other one shut down. But we'll try to make do with what we have here. So here, instead of mixing in colors, you can also just mix different types of shimmer fondant. So we have like the gold and the silver mixed, makes like a nice light antique gold. The silver and the white makes it just a little bit brighter of a silver, and then the gold and the pearl also makes a little brighter shade of gold. So if you don't want like this dark shade, that you can always custom mix your own to make lighter shades. Now here I did kind of the reverse of what I did up here. So the main color up here was like the pearl, and the secondary color was the turquoise. But here I switched it around. So I made the main color the turquoise and the secondary color the pearl. And you'll see goes with the silver and the gold too. So we'll be making some of these colors for our scallop pattern. And then I just wanted to show you lastly, you can do much bigger quantities. So these all I mixed to a 5-to-1 ratio. So the larger balls are 5 parts of the color, and the smaller balls are 1 part of the secondary color. So here I did a much larger quantity, and you'll see that this one is, almost 4 times as much as the 5 parts. So this is 20 parts, 20 parts shimmer and 1 part pink to get this nice light pink. So you can do a bunch of different variations to kind of achieve your colors. All right, so this is a little hard to see, so I'll show you the actual mixing. Right, so the best way that I try to teach students how to mix colors is by using parts or proportions. So when you have like a ball or a piece of fondant, I go ahead and I just roll it. So give it a nice little knead. And if you feel like it's sticking to your surface for any reason, again, feel free to sprinkle a little cornstarch on the surface as well as your hands. All right, so I'm gonna knead it. And the best way to get your fondant in parts is kind of to roll it into a log. So you want to make sure that it's even, that one side isn't, thicker than the other side. And then I flatten out the sides. Okay, and whatever color you're mixing it with, you want to make it the same thickness of the log. So if we do this here, it'll be kind of like a 1-to-1 ratio. So you see that we have 50% pink and 50% pearl. So when you mix, you can mix these together to make this pink a little bit more shimmery. But right now, you can eyeball it and kind of make these two logs. If you want to be really specific, you can also use a weight scale. So for instance, if you were doing like 1 ounce of white, you would want to do 1 ounce of pink. Now I'm going to separate this into parts. So I'm just going to score this. Okay, so now you'll see that if you cut this into 4 parts, now you kind of have even proportions to play with. So for instance, I could do 4 parts white and 1 part pink to make a light pink. Or you could do 4 parts pink, 1 part white, just to get a little shimmeriness, but it'll still be a dark pink. So go ahead and you can play around with the different proportions. Right now, I'll just show you the 4 parts white to 1 part pink, so you could see how it lightens this pink up. So now I'm going to take these 4 parts, mix it with the 1 part pink, give it a knead. Okay, again, if you need more cornstarch, feel free. Now, if you work in a humid environment, I do suggest using the cornstarch. If you work in a cool and dry environment, the shortening might help soften it up a little bit. Okay, so that's all you have to do. Now you see this nice shimmery pink, and it's much lighter than this pink that we originally had out of the package because we added a lot of that pearl shimmer to it. And if you look up close, you can kind of see the difference between the flat color here and the shimmery color here. Okay, so now you can do this with a combination of other things. So you can mix gold with the pink, you can mix silver with the pink, and I will show you that. So since these are already conveniently in pretty even blocks, I'll just cut these in parts again. So again, I'll cut it into 4 parts, but if you want to cut it into smaller parts, you can. Okay, so now let's do the half and half. Let's take one of the golds with one of the pinks and one of the silvers with one of the pinks and see how it changes this pink color. And when you're kneading, especially if you're kneading like a larger quantity, right now I'm just using like these small quantities, but if you need to cover an entire cake and you're gonna have like this, maybe like 4 or 5 pounds of fondant that you need to knead, my best suggestion is instead of kneading with your wrist like this, hold your wrist pretty firm and steady and rock your body back and forth, and that'll kind of alleviate the pressure that's going on your wrist. And it'll make it just easier in general. Okay, so I mixed the gold with the pink and it's kind of made this coralish shade because the gold has a lot of yellow and orange in it. So you'll see the difference between the pink and this. Okay, this is a very beautiful, much more customized color than what you may just get out of the package. And for the last one, let me show you the pink and the silver. Okay, and because the silver is has like a little tint of, you know, it has a grayish shade to it. This is just gonna mute it down a little bit from what it was. So it has a little purplish, grayish hue as opposed to this bright pink. So this is a great way to mix custom colors without using like food gels and, you know, getting your hands, you know, all stained with dye, because we know that's pretty embarrassing. So what you want to do is, you know, just take different portions of colored fondant and mix them with others to make your own colors. So this is the silver and the pink. I'll show you right here. This was the silver and the orange. And this was the silver and the pearl. So you see we got 3 amazing different colors just by, you know, a simple mix. Okay, so since we have these colors, I'm going to show you how I made some of the custom colors for our mermaid design. Okay, so we have this violet here. We have the gold, just as it is. We have turquoise mixed with pearl. We have silver mixed with pink. And the last one I'm going to show you is this turquoise mixed with gold. So this as well, this is a 5:1 proportion. And the only reason why you might want to keep proportions in mind than just kind of doing it by eye is if you're going to have the same cake order in the future, or you want to replicate that exact color, it's good to write down the proportions. So next time, you know, without having to kind of guess that color again. So let's just mix this. Okay, and this is going to bring, so the blue, if you think about the primary colors and secondary colors, if you mix blue and yellow, it makes green. So this is kind of going to have the same effect. We're mixing turquoise with the gold, which has a lot of the yellow and the orange in it. So that'll kind of make this into like a sea foam kind of green color. Okay, so you could see that color develop. You'll see it's much more green than just the turquoise and the pearl mixed together. So you can see the contrast. Okay, so I'm gonna roll this out into a sheet as well. And then we'll cut out our circles. Okay, so before you roll it out, make sure there's a little cornstarch on the bottom, because as you roll it out, it's kind of gonna spread. And then we're just gonna take it from the center and roll our rolling pin up and down. And you always wanna start from the center and gently go outward so you have a nice shape. We're gonna try to get it pretty thin, maybe about 1/8 of an inch thin. And while you're rolling it out, you might run into little air pockets that develop. You could take a little, like a thin sewing needle and pop those and smooth those out, either with your palm or with a fondant smoother.
Hey Liz, there's a question about the thickness of the fondant. What is the thickness that you're rolling out to?
So I'm trying to achieve 1/8 of an inch, just because I like that thinness. But for different decorations, you may need a thicker fondant. So it really depends on what you're doing. So yeah, if you're covering a cake, I also kind of go for that 1/8 thickness, and you'll see it's pretty thin. Just because you don't want like a thick coating of fondant, because that may get, you know, a little. There we go. Okay, nice and smooth. Okay, but yeah, if you want to go to like 1/4, or if you want it super thin to make ruffles and stuff, you can even go to 1/16. But really, you can kind of feel it as you're rolling it, how thin it'll get. And you always want to check on the edges. And you can see that this is a nice thickness for something like the scallops, because if these are too thick, it'll make the cake pretty heavy. So we want to keep it nice and light. All right, so we have all the different colors that we're going to use for our cake. So again, just to reiterate, this was silver and pink. This one was purple and pearl. This one is just the gold as itself. This is turquoise and gold, and this is turquoise and pearl. Okay, if anyone has any questions about the fondant mixing, just type it up and Melinda will let me know. Otherwise, I'll show you how to cut these out. Okay, so to cut, I have a small circle cutter. Depending on how tall your cake is, you can pick a bigger, or how big you want your scallop pattern, you can pick a bigger circle. But this is a 1.5 inch circle, and I think it goes well with the 6-inch cake that I have. So I'm just gonna take it and press it down firmly, and then give it a little twist. Okay, and then you'll see that it comes out nice and cleanly. Because the thing you want to avoid is like the little like scraggly ends, or what we call like spider legs on here. So if you give it a twist, that'll really help give it a clean cut. So I just twist and then pop it out. Now when making these scallops, it's beneficial if it gets a little bit firm. So I let it dry for about 5 to 10 minutes, because if it's too soft, when you layer them, they'll actually like form to each other, and you'll be able to see the little curves underneath. I'll show you that in a little bit, but if they're a little bit firm, it kind of won't form to the circles underneath as much. Okay, so I'm just...
There's a couple of questions really quick. One of the questions is, how do you calculate how much fondant you need for the size of the cake you're making?
Oh, so there's actually a lot of guides. So if you just do a quick Google search, you'll actually find a lot of charts that people have already made that tell you like a 4 by 3 inch cake needs X amount of pounds to cover it. So that's a really good way to do it, because someone has already done the math for you. So I suggest you definitely go check that out. All right, so same thing with the pink. I'm just going to punch out a few circles.
For the colors that you're working with right now, what was the ratios?
Oh, it was 5 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was the same as the little balls that I showed you on the tray, the 5 to 1, except I multiplied it by much more. So it was like, say, if you were doing it in grams, if it was 5 grams to 1 gram, I did 50 grams to 10 grams, and that just gave me a bigger quantity. Okay, now we're gonna save the rest of this fondant. Don't throw it away. You can just keep it in a Ziploc, or if you're gonna use it right away, just set it aside just for a few minutes, because I'm gonna show you how to make the seashells. So always kind of like put it in a ball so that it doesn't dry up so fast. Okay, and if you see while you're cutting, you might have some fondant that's stuck to your cutter. So just make sure to clean that. So I just wipe it like that. And then we're going to continue cutting out a few green circles. Okay. And then lastly, oh wait, 2 more. Yeah, so we have the light blue. Okay, again, roll this up. And then we have our gold. And again, I'm sorry that the overhead camera isn't working, but I hope you guys can see this. If you have any trouble, just let me know and I'll shift the camera. Okay, so let's just do one more. All right.
Hey Liz, really quickly before we move into the next step, can you just review the colors that you have in front of you and what the portions and parts were?
Sure. So this is just the gold as it was out of the package. So I'm just using that as is. This light blue color was 5 parts pearl and 1 part turquoise. Okay. And then this one was 5 parts turquoise and 1 part gold. Makes a nice seafoam green color. This one was 5 parts pearl and 1 part purple. And this one was 5 parts silver and 1 part pink. All right, so I hope you guys wrote that down. If you missed it, just let me know and I'll review it again. But you'll see that it creates this array of colors. I think it's pretty amazing that we've created these with, just these colors that came out of the package. We have the light variations and the dark variations. All right, so I'm gonna set these a little to the side. Again, I want them to dry just a little bit. So in the meantime, I'll show you how to make the seashells. And it's really easy. So I have a mold. You can just find these on Amazon, and I think Michael's also has some molds like these. If you can't find them in the cake decorating section, definitely check out like the clay or like polymer clay or different sections because different art forms and mediums use molds. So definitely take a look and stroll around the aisles. All right, so let me show you what we're gonna make. We're gonna make this little mermaid tail and then a bunch of different seashells so we can use them as accents to our cake. And because these colors, we mix them with pearls, they have a nice glittery effect. That'll be, you don't even have to add like extra pearl to make your mermaids and seashells stand out. All right, so to the mold, I like to sprinkle in a little bit of cornstarch just so it doesn't stick. Now it is silicone, so it won't stick that well, like that much, but just in case, a little added insurance. Okay, so I just sprinkled in here. Kind of like when you're flouring your cake pans, you want to do that just so the cake after it's baked doesn't stick to the pan. Okay, so for the mermaid tail, I'm gonna kind of form this roughly to the shape of the tail. So instead of kind of like just trying to squeeze a ball in there, I'm gonna make the bottom a little thicker. And the top, it has like this split in the tail. So I'm gonna split the fondant just so I can kind of guide it in there better. So this will be much easier to kind of form into here. So you could press it pretty firmly, or you can take a rolling pin and give it a nice roll. So you'll see that as you roll, it'll kind of give you the outline of the shape. So you can pull that aside, or you can take a knife, kind of cut off the excess, because we do have a lot here. So roughly cut off the extra. All right, and whatever spread to the sides again, bring them back inside the limits of the mold. Now I'm just gonna refine the shape. Right, give it a nice press again. Okay, now we're ready to flip it over and kind of just peel it off. So you want to do this on the table so it doesn't rip. Okay, and you'll see we have a really beautiful mermaid tail. Now, if you have any, cornstarch, extra cornstarch that was stuck on your decorations, you can just brush it off with a little brush or your fingers. Now, I'm going to use toothpicks and kind of insert them into the bottom of the tail, just so I have something to stick this into the cake. Because if you were to just put the mermaid tail in, it'll kind of flop over because it's top heavy for sure. So I put some toothpicks in to hold it up, and I'm gonna let this dry for maybe overnight, just because it's pretty humid where I am. But if you wanna speed that process up, you could always add a little Tylose powder to your fondant, and that'll make it a little bit more firm and it'll dry quicker. Okay, so you have that. And then these little guys with the seashells, these don't need to dry before you apply them on, so you could do this right before you decorate your cake. So I'm just ripping off little bits that I know will fit into these cavities. And this is a really easy way to kind of jazz up your cake, putting the fondant in the molds, because it would take forever to make seashells by hand, although that would be really cool. Okay, and I made seashells in all different colors, so feel free to make whatever colors you think go well with the cake. All right, so I just did a few here, same thing for these. You can just keep going, but I want to show you how to take them out. So you always want to be gentle with these. Just use the tip of your fingers to kind of nudge it out. All right, and that's that. That's it. You just have to do that, and the mold kind of does all the work for you. And this fondant is nice and shiny, and the colors will go beautifully with the cake that we have. Okay, so let me kind of set all this aside and bring out these that I made beforehand. Again, I let the mermaid tail dry overnight, and now you can see that it's pretty stable and sturdy, ready to go on our cake. Okay, so let me clean up the workspace just a little bit.
Hey Liz, really quick, sorry, one more time. Can you just review the ratios of the colors?
Yes, it was 5 to 1.
5 to
Yep, so I have it right here. So it was 5 parts pearl to 1 part turquoise, 5 parts turquoise to 1 part gold, 5 parts silver to 1 part pink, 5 parts pearl to 1 part purple, and then the gold, just straight out of the bag.
Sorry, what was the last one? You froze you froze for a second.
5 parts pearl to 1 part purple.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'll bring out my cake. Okay, so this was coated in the same color that we made our little discs with. And this was the 5 parts pearl, 1 part turquoise. So I just made a much larger quantity. I kind of, I think maybe like 3 pounds. And I rolled this out. So the thing with the pearl, the shimmer fondant is that it actually suggests on the container that when you're covering a cake that you do the paneling method. So here I've done that here, and you see it creates really nice sharp corners. And paneling is different from just rolling out a large sheet of fondant and covering it on top and kind of working your fondant onto the cake. Paneling is actually rolling out the fondant into a very long piece and measuring the circumference of your cake and creating one long rectangular panel that matches the height and the circumference of this. And then you kind of roll it up onto your rolling pin and apply it, like unravel it around the cake, and that'll make it stick. Now the first thing you actually want to do is cover the top. So you just make a circle disc to cover the top, and then you do the paneling around. So kind of how I had that rolled out those sheets of fondant for these. You would do it the same, about the same thickness, maybe like 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, cut out a long rectangle and go around, cover your cake. If you have excess on top, you can kind of trim that off, and you'll get these automatic sharp corners. So it's, in some ways it's easier than, you know, the covering method, but it does take a little getting used to. So I suggest that you give it a try and see kind of what you prefer. Here I have done that. Okay, and now we have our discs. So the only thing you need to apply these onto your cake is a little bit of water and a paintbrush. So I use one that's flat and wide just so I can get like a thin coating of water. Because if you put too much water on the fondant, it can kind of get like wet and gummy. So to prevent that, I'm just gonna really apply a thin coat. So nice and thin just once. And then starting from the bottom.
Hey Liz, there's a quick question about paneling. Do you use ganache or buttercream? Do you have preferences? And do you use any water, like a light brush of water, to get the panels to stick? And what would you do if you were having trouble getting them to stick?
Okay, yeah, so for paneling, do you need a little bit of moisture on the cake so it'll stick? Same thing with if you were gonna cover it with one fondant, you would need a little moisture on the cake for that as well. It's kind of, if you're working with ganache and the surface of your cake is just dry, not enough, you can take a little spray bottle and kind of spritz.
Oh, no.
Hello?
Oh,
Hello?
we can
Okay.
hear you. There you are.
Can you see me? Sorry guys, again, it's a little spotty because of this hurricanes and storms coming in, but we'll make it through. Okay, so yeah, you can take a little, like a spray bottle and kind of give it a nice little mist of water around the cake so that you can adhere to it. If you're using buttercream though, you're probably gonna have the cake pretty cold because, you know, to do it on soft buttercream, it's almost impossible to cover a cake with fondant. So I usually chill my cakes, like the buttercream coated cakes, for maybe like 15 minutes just so it can get firm. And then take it out of the freezer, it forms a layer of condensation because it's kind of warming up from the freezer to the room. So I use that natural condensation to cover. So I don't like spray water on a buttercream cake, but I will on a ganache. So those are just a few tips to get your fondant to stick. And I hope that makes sense. If you need more clarification, just let me know. But generally, those are the techniques I use. So ganache, spray a little water, and buttercream, just use the condensation. Now I do know for some people with ganache, they might put a layer of shortening or whatnot, just so it's easier to adjust, or, you know, some people think that that reduces the amount of bubbles that form while you're smoothing the sides, which you can just pop with a pin as well. But I don't know, I think water just works and I don't have to add any extra fat or anything. But again, it kind of plays with, you know, the humidity of the climate where you're working, because maybe your ganache might actually be a little humid or a little sticky if you're in a very warm place. Okay, so just going back to the little scallop pattern. So I brushed a little bit of water on the back of this disc and I just adhered it by pressing gently, and now you'll see that it's pretty secure on there. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and keep doing that. So for the color pattern, you don't have to specifically, you know, try to go crazy over like pink, purple, turquoise, gold, pink, purple, turquoise, gold. If you do it organically, it kind of ends up looking beautiful, like even if you have two of the same color discs touching each other. So kind of just go by eye. I think that's the best way with this. So covering the entire surface. And I'm gonna let it touch the circle. And just keep going. So when I say by eye, you know, literally just look at it and be like, oh, well, I think I can use another pink here or a turquoise here. So use your design sense and judgment. Now say that you were brushing your water and you put a little bit too much, then this will, you know, kind of absorb all the water and get very malleable and a little difficult to work with. So you might want to just leave that aside. You can sprinkle some cornstarch in it to absorb the water, but yeah, just leave it aside and let it dry out a bit, and then you'll be able to use it again. Let me bring this a little closer. Okay. So you can see that this is a really easy design and it's gonna come together quickly. I'll just do this part of the cake to spare you having to watch me do the whole thing. But when you start the second layer, you're gonna want to take the disc and put it right in the center of where the first two discs combined underneath. Okay, and just layer it like that.
Liz, what size cake are you working with and how many layers would that be?
So this is a 6 by 6, I believe. So depending on how thick you cut your cake layers, that really depends. Like I usually cut mine 1 inch thick. So there would be maybe 5 layers of cake and a little bit of buttercream in between to kind of make up for that 6 inches. Or you can have like 4 layers that are a little bit thicker and buttercream layers that are 1/2 inch thick. So then you'll have that 6 inch total as well. So it really depends. Like some people torque their cakes much thinner than others. So whatever you're used to or comfortable with, just feel free to use that. Okay, so a little bit more. Now here, I'm gonna touch this disc as well as making sure that I'm in the middle of these 2 discs under. Okay, so you can kind of see here through the shadow. I'll actually just press it and exaggerate it for you. But if the fondant is a little, is not dry enough, you'll see that it kind of forms to the fondant underneath and you'll be able to see these ridges. With this pattern, like I typically don't want to see that. So that's why I let it dry for a little bit. And here I like pressed it in to show you. But if I didn't, you know, it wouldn't show that much. Like in the pink, it's not that bad. So if that's the case, you can pull it off.
What would you recommend for a good amount of time to let it dry up?
Again, it kind of depends. If you're in a humid area, it might take a lot longer. But I would say generally like 10-15 minutes for the fondant to absorb it and then dry up again. And of course, like I mentioned, you could put a little bit of cornstarch to make that go a little bit faster.
Okay. Do you have any suggestions on color placement technique for people who like things exactly to be a certain way but want it to feel random and unique? I don't know. How do you get creative within a set of rules, if you can?
So as, I don't know, it might be a common theme with all cake decorators and bakers, we're kind of perfectionists. So we want everything to be super organized and perfect. But With this, like again, like I put a gold next to a gold. If I was, you know, really stressing out about arrangement and you didn't want the gold next to gold, you can always just, you know, pop another color in. But because this, I want the effect to look a little bit more organic, I'm okay with that. And I'm just gonna kind of see by eye. Like I have these golds here. Now I'm definitely not gonna put another gold here and another gold here because that would just be, you know, the cluster of gold is just too much for my eye. But I think if you kind of keep it minimal, like the way that the pattern is repeating itself or touching each other, I think it'll be fine. Plus, if you were gonna be a perfectionist and kind of calculate, you know, how many pink circles you needed, and how many, you know, turquoise circles you needed, kind of, you know, by the end, you might not be able to have that perfect, like, it's a lot of calculations. So I think it's just better to have, you know, with this particular pattern to be a little bit more organic. Now, that all depends on your cake design. If I was doing something a little bit more geometrical, I think I would stress on, you know, perfection a little bit more. But here, you know, this is a very playful cake. So, yeah, I think whatever looks good to your eye will probably look good to whoever's receiving the cake. And always know that, you know, we see all the mistakes, but other people don't. So give yourself some grace when making cakes. All right, so I'm just gonna do a little bit more to show you. So now, you know, I'm on that third layer. I'm still overlapping, same thing as what I did on the first layer. Like right at the middle point, on the height of these discs, I'm placing the bottom of the next row.
Liz, would you have any concerns if you were to make the round pieces several days before adhering them to the cake? Is there any concern with that, or what kind of time frame?
Yeah, so if you are, you know, wanting to prepare this ahead of time, you definitely can. So I'll just show you. I have some of these discs that I made about a week ago when I was making the demo cake, and you'll see like they're firm. They're not like this where it's like bending, because these are pretty dry now, but you can definitely use these. You just need to spread that water, and instead of immediately adhering it to the cake, I would just let this sit for maybe a minute or two, again, to kind of absorb that water, soften up again, and, you know, then you could place it on your cake. So you can definitely make anything ahead of time. You can make the mermaid tail ahead of time, you can make the seashells ahead of time, and you can make these discs ahead of time. So it's always good, especially when you're making a lot of cakes, to have like the earlier part of the week for production. So feel free to kind of do this ahead of time. Okay, so you'll see as I keep going. So now, you know, if you kind of want to go faster, you can lay all these out and kind of do maybe like 10 discs at a time. With these fresh discs, you don't want to let the water sit too long. So you'll see this is like one of the hard discs that I made before. I did put water on it, but it's not forming, like it's pretty, you know, it's leaving these gaps because it's not wanting to curve. So that's why I'm gonna let it sit just a little bit longer. And the good thing about this pattern is you can kind of go back and forth. You don't have to go in like a row. Right, so let's get a few more in there just so I could show you when you reach the top. All right, so now we're at this top row. You could see that, you know, just because I used the size of the circle disc, it matches perfectly to reach the top. Now, if it doesn't, you can trim off the tops a little. So the way that I overlapped the demo cake, so you'll see that last row has a half scallop. So that's what we're gonna do with this as well. So when you're picking out your circle cutter, whether you have like a 4-inch cake, again, this one is a 6-inch cake. If you have a 4-inch cake or a 5-inch cake, it's good to just kind of like space out your circles and see what size you would need. So you could also do a drawing on like a sheet of paper, just cut out the exact height and draw out your circles, trace it with a pencil, just so you can calculate that. So there is a little precision, but not, if that makes sense. Okay, so here it looks like maybe I can use a little bit more pink. So I'll put this one here and this one here. And then for that last layer, I'm gonna take just my knife, make sure it's nice and clean. Now, I don't wanna end it like this. I do wanna end it with one more scallop on top, but just half of the circle. So I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna cut it into this little half shape. A little bit of water, and it'll match perfectly up there. So again, cut a piece in half. So that's kind of the idea of where we're gonna go. Again, just starting from the bottom, working your way up to the top and meeting that top line and cutting off whatever, trimming your circles. Okay, so I'm gonna just show you how to finish this cake with the other shells and stuff that we made. So imagine this whole thing is coated in these discs.
Hey Liz, quick question. So this decorated cake, would you put it in the refrigerator? Wouldn't you put it in the refrigerator? What would you do to take it out so that you can avoid sweating? If you could just kind of review some of the storage pieces for this decorated cake.
Oh, sure. So typically I like to decorate the day that it's going out. So I would just keep this at room temperature in a cool air-conditioned room. About 70 degrees is a nice ideal temperature just to keep your cakes even that or anything cooler. So once this is decorated, I would let it sit out until I have to deliver it. Now, if you're gonna do it the day before, I still would let it sit out in like a covered container just so there's no like dust or anything, or put it in a box. And let it sit out in that cool room. But anything more than like 2 days, you don't want the cake or the buttercream to be at room temperature too long. So anything more than 2 days, you could chill it. But when you chill it, you really wanna transition the temperature back to room temperature slowly. So if you, say for instance, like if you're going from the freezer, you would always wanna take it to the fridge for hours before bringing it out to room temp. So that gradual transition will help minimize condensation. Because if you bring this out from the freezer straight to room temp, it's all gonna get wet. But if you bring it from like a low setting fridge, so maybe not the coldest setting of your fridge, but maybe like 1 or 2, so that so the cake is not so cold. Because remember, the cake inside and the core is going to be very cold for a few hours. So you're going to let this sit for, I would say like 6 to 8 hours for the condensation to form, and then it has to dry. So if you leave it out long enough, even though there's condensation, again, the fondant will absorb all that moisture, but then as it starts to dry out, you'll see that the condensation goes away, and you'll kind of have like this matte look again. So it's all about temperature, time, and controlling those 2 elements. Okay, so let's put our finishing touches on here. So we have the shells and the tail that we made earlier. So let me bring this up so you can see it just a little better. All right, so I'm just gonna stick this into the middle of the cake. And you could do like 2 or 3 tails on top if you want. you know, more variety. You can do like a silver one and a gold one, or, you know, whatever color you feel works with your cake. This one just has the one. And then to make sand, I have crushed graham crackers. So you can use any cookie or cracker that you want, as long as it kind of has this sandy color. You can even use like Nilla wafers, or if you're overseas, you can use like the digestives or the Lotus biscuits. But pretty much you just put it in a Ziploc bag, and you take a rolling pin and you kind of break it up and then roll it back and forth to make a fine powder. But they also sell pre-ground graham crackers, so you can also just buy that. So what I'm gonna do is take a little spoon, sprinkle some on top. And just so your cake doesn't look too flat, even from the top, you want to create dimension wherever you can, because that'll make the cake more interesting. So I try to pile it up a little higher where the mermaid tail starts. Okay, so it's high there, and then when I get around to the edges of the cake, the outer edges, I'll spread it out a little bit just so it's not as high. And having all these little, you know, thoughtful elements of your cake will make it that much more interesting. And because we have the graham crackers or the sand mound up here, now when we put our shells, they'll kind of sit up at an angle instead of flat, so you can see it better. So I'm just going to arrange a few seashells over here. You can just place those on, and then same thing with the bottom. We want to, you know, be mindful and make the entire cake, even the base, you know, really, really fun and decorative. So I'm going to take this and spread all around the base. Okay, and just to give it some variation, so, you know, this looks good, but I think it would be nicer if there's some, you know, areas of concentrated seashells as well as sand. So I'm going to build up some mounds around the base of the cake, just so it kind of comes out a bit. Like in a natural beach or shoreline, you know, not everything is exactly, you know, straight. You know, it's a little, the shoreline goes wavy, so we kind of want to mimic that here.
Liz, do you have any recommendation to get the graham cracker to stick to the board, if there's any way to get that so it's not so loose?
Yeah, so if you are gonna like be transporting this and you're afraid that when you shake it that the graham crackers will spill out, like be assured it's not gonna move that much, so you're okay. But if you really want to secure it, I would actually suggest not using like a grease-proof board, but maybe cover the board in fondant, whether it's white or, you know, the sand color or whatever you want. Cover it in fondant. You could spritz a little water to make this the fondant tacky, and then you could pour the sand on that, and that'll kind of like be like a natural glue, like that tacky fondant. So that's the best suggestion I have for that. Or if you want something much more stable, you can actually like crumble up a cake and mix a little buttercream into it. So it's not like, you know, fine particles all around the cake. You'll have more like moist, heavy, denser sand. So if you wanted to do like a yellow cake, or, you know, like a cinnamon cake or something that has like a light sand color, that is a little bit more stable than powdery, you can definitely do that. Or you can crush the graham crackers a little less and have bigger chunks. Like in here, you'll see like I have big chunks and small chunks. Okay, so now that we have this cake, so you see now it has a lot more variation in where these little piles of sand lay. And I think it kind of adds a little fun to the cake. So now on those piles, I'm going to add the little elements that we made, such as the seashells. And feel free to arrange these however you want. colors. Yeah, but you'll see that that makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more dimensional. Okay, so that is our finished cake. I'll bring this one out just so you can see it side by side. So if you finish this pattern, you'll get something like this. And it's a really fun, quick, and easy way to make something really pretty. Now, you see, if I just went along, it still wouldn't take that long to make. So this design you can do probably in under an hour, you know, if you were like recording and talking. So it's really quick. It's really easy to make these custom colors just by mixing shimmer and a little bit of colored fondant. So play around with, you know, whatever colors you want. It could be mermaid theme, or, you know, you could do really any other cake. Just create these custom colors by mixing fondant, and, you know, you don't have to use food gels. So I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed the project, and I would love to see, you know, the cakes that you make. And so feel free to share photos on Instagram or tag Michael so we can take a look. Yeah, and if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. We'll be here for a few more seconds, so Melinda, she can lead those over to me. But yeah, you can find all these materials at Michael's. And once you see the shimmer in person, I think you'll be really impressed with the little like fine details that you'll see. Because on the camera, you know, I can hold it up close, but still with the lighting, you can just see a little bit. But in real life, it's really spectacular. It really will make your cake pretty and kind of add that little extra dimension and glamour to your cake. All right, so if that's it, you know, I just want to say thank you for joining me. Again, sorry for the troubles with the other camera and the internet being spotty, but I guess that's what you get with the live class. But I really enjoyed having you guys with me, and I hope you'll try this cake out. All right.
Thanks, Liz.
Bye, guys. Bye, everyone. Have fun.